Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my desktop. Yes, it's ever changing, just like the seasons. Today, we're actually going to look at my current emulator that I'm still working all the bugs out, and one I just finished all my first Dreamcast Let's Play on, and namely, it's called NullDC. This is what you want. If you really want a good Dreamcast emulator, NullDC is the way to go. Okay, so NullDC is basically the best Dreamcast emulator you can ever get if you want to download it. I remember when Sheena said I should really do some Dreamcast. I should really try out the Dreamcast emulator. It was a good idea. So I'm going to walk you through this as best I can, as well as what I did to get everything to work the way I want it to. Okay, so first off, you have to download NullDC, of course. And we open it like so. Now you see all this right here. You don't have to worry about, plugins or anything like that. The only thing you would have to do is you would have to get the Dreamcast. And the Dreamcast itself, the emulator, you will need to do the following. I'm going to show you where you can actually get the Dreamcast folder, or rather the BIOS for the Dreamcast, because you need the BIOS in order. You need the BIOS. It works just like the PlayStation one, but you have to make sure you have the BIOS for it because it runs ISOs. And point of concept, these are the only games I have so far. I've gotten rid of a few because, all intensive purposes. So, let's just say I was going to download Shenmue, right? Now, there's the thing about getting it. Now, it says here you have to get NullDC. You'll have to get NullDC, right? Now, NullDC is about 6 years old, and it's a Sega Dreamcast, and it's the only emulator that is Sega Dreamcast. So yes, definitely want to get this. It's called Null 1.0.4. That's what you want for Dreamcast. And like I said, it runs DC ISOs. It's totally different than PlayStation because the files you want to run are CDI. So let's just say you want to download something from Dreamcast. Now, the one thing you want to do is you want to download something called Dreamcast. Dreamcast is basically the Dreamcast ISOs. So let's look that up like so. You want to look up Dreamcast. Dreamcast is for the Sega Dreamcast. And basically, that's how you run everything. You get Dreamcast, you download that, And then all you would have to do from there. See, Dreamcast is an emulator. So what you would need is to download Dreamcast. Make sure it's a good running version. But yes, as I said, these are Dreamcast is basically the one that you should run, the one you should download, because this one will actually help you run Dreamcast games. So, another thing you have to do, and you have to remember to do this, is mind you that these are very big files. How big? Let me show you. The files I have, like Evolution, they're about a gig. They're just about around a gig. And of course you would have to, you would have to run, you would not just have to run the file, but you would have to do it like you do any other file if you were doing such a thing. You would have to basically run it through WinRAR, extract the file, and you would get, all these, and you would get your game file. Now, how you would have to do that is you would have to do it twice. Like, say, for Evolution, you see all these parts right here. The only part you need to do, the only part that you only have to extract is this one. You only have to extract just the first part. And once you do that, this is the file that you want to run. That's how it works. Since it runs by CDI files, what you want to do is you want to run this one file. All games are actually like these. So as you see, Gigawing has a CDI file. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 has a CDI file. Power Stone has a CDI file. Project Justice has a CDI file. Psychic Force 2012 has a CDI file. And Zombie Revenge has a CDI file. Because all you really need to do is you download NullDC, download Dreamcast, just the way I spell CHNKAST, Dreamcast. And then what you would have to do is you would have to extract the file. The Dreamcast is basically the Dreamcast. So basically, you would have to download. It's basically your BIOS file. Without that, you can't play it. You can't play the Dreamcast without the BIOS file. So what you would have to do is you would have to download the Dreamcast file, drag it to NullDC, put it here, and then everything else, all you would have to do is just download the game like normal. Download the games like normal. Make sure you extract them. Not extract file. Don't just extract files. No, just extract. You would have to really just extract most of the stuff just to get this. What you want to do is you want to extract to where you see folders, not the whole thing. You just want the folder. Then all you would have to do is run NullDC like so. And the beautiful thing about NullDC is it's not limited to this. You can maximize it and whoop, just like that. And all you would have to do is either go through normal boot, pick the game you want, make sure you click on it, or if that's not the game you want, you can just basically go to here and go from Dreamcast, make sure it is in Dreamcast, and then just pick any of the games that you see here. Your taste may vary on what games you want, but these are the games that I have so far. And all you would have to do is run the CD images, CD-GD images. That's EDI, MDS, NRG, or GDI. So it's just like running, the PlayStation. You would have to get the BIOS, you would have to download it, extract the file. If need be, you would have to extract it again just to get the file you want, and then just run it. Now, another thing you want to know about is controllers. Let me show you how I got my controller to work for this. We go to select plugins like so. Now you see all this right here? For your controller, this is what you want to do. For your controller, you would have to find it in here in the Maple input saves. So right here you see Pudu input plugin. That's what you want. You want to find this like Pudu. You have to click this, go to here, and it will pick up Pudu input plugin version 0.1, and just take it from there. And then all you would have to do from there is, well, this is port A, so you would have this set up, your VMU for saving games. If you want to do a Pudu pack, you can do that if you want to do that. But you want to have it set to, like, say, well, just for mine, I have it set to Pudu input plugin. Now it's only for just that one. I don't think it's for. No, it's for every port. It's for every port. So if you want to do that, you can do that for all ports. But that's the only thing you would have to do. And then after that, okay. And then what you would have to do is, then you would go to Maple. Now Maple is your controller. So all you would have to do is go down to config keys for player 1. And as you can see, my controller is already configured out. And you can set the buttons any way you want. That means it'll be set up just like the Dreamcast. And if you want to put keyboard input, you can. But for the most part, you got your analog, you got your D-pad, you got your buttons, and you got your face buttons and your shoulder buttons. And of course, I'm using joystick for most of the games I will be working with, namely analog. I'll be using analog for most of the games that I'll be working with when I do my Dreamcast Let's Plays. So there you go. So all you have to do for everything else And as you can see, this is the only one that's actually working. Everything else, as you can see, does not work. It's not connected, so therefore it won't work. For anything else, all you would have to do... Oh, another thing is, if you really want to start up your Dreamcast emulator, but you don't want to really, start up a game, all you have to do is go to System, Start, and select No Disk, and this is what will happen. And as you can see, it runs just like the actual Dreamcast. Now this, of course, is your VMA. I mean, your VMU. It's short for Visual Memory Unit. It acts like a memory card, and you can play little games on it. Some games, when you let me start that again. There were some games on the Dreamcast in which you can play and unlock stuff off it. Namely, if you play something like Zombie Revenge and you cleared the mini games off it, all you would have to do is put it back to where you port your slot, your memory card slot was, whether it was A or B. Boot up Zombie Revenge, and it would unlock you a nice bit of bonuses in game. Some games were like that. You had to play a game within the game just to unlock certain bonuses. Now, of course, since it's the emulator, you can do the settings up however you wish. Of course, since this is not a real Dreamcast, the timer is going to be off. So, like I said, you can avoid that. I doubt you can actually put a disc in there, because since it's not an actual console, that's not going to really work. But all you have to do is just play the game, just like so. And boom, there you have it. Another thing that the Dreamcast emulator will do to your controller is it will turn it off. It is one of those controllers, it is one of those kind of emulators that will turn off your controller if you are done with it. As I'm looking at my controller now, and if I were just to exit out of it, it shuts off my controller. But it doesn't mean it's completely off. All I had to do is just give it a nice little tug and push it back in. Or just press the power button and it comes back on. But then again, it would show up my Steam and, go into big picture mode. But for those who are wondering how the Dreamcast emulator works, that's all you need to do. Because the only thing you really need is the Chankara emulator added into the Dreamcast folder. And then after that, start downloading some games. And mind you that the games are at least about a range between 100 to 500 megabytes. But when you start extracting it, you'll learn that it's about a little over a gig. Or about a gig. And I've checked a few games that did work and did not work. And I can tell you some of the games that did work. All the games that you saw in my folder for Dreamcast, these work. These work very well. Gigawing, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Power Stone, Project Justice, Psychic Force 2012, Zombie Revenge. They all work. I almost forgot Evolution, but yes, they all work, and as you can see, they're all about a gig worth of memory. So we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 3, 4. I'm going around now to about 5. 6. About 6 gigs. And that's what I say here. It's about 6 gigs. So all those games did cost a good amount of memory, but still, it's rather good. But in any case, that is how you get. That is how things will work out if you were to basically get yourself the Sega Dreamcast emulator. Just remember, NullDC 1.04. That's the one you want. Get Dreamcast, and then of course take it from there. I guarantee, once you start playing the Dreamcast emulator, you will realize what a piece of history you are trying out for yourself. Because the Sega Dreamcast sadly just died out too fast. And the only reason why I'm doing Dreamcast games is because I don't want people to forget the Dreamcast just as much as the Sega Saturn was just as easily forgotten. The Dreamcast is just as easily forgotten. But for the most part, yeah, you definitely do not want to forget about the Dreamcast. It was Sega's last-ditch effort of actually bringing some good games, and of course, I feel that the porting is what killed the Dreamcast. There were many games for the Sega Dreamcast that never came out only because of the lack of porting. I've been to Japan. I've seen the titles that have never, ever came out. And if I were to show you, the list of games for the Sega Dreamcast, well, let's just look at all the titles for the Sega Dreamcast. I mean, look at all these titles. I'm slowly just showing them off to you. Look at all these titles. Even some of the ones I basically downloaded just for testing reasons, I can tell you they're worth trying out. And let me tell you, this version of Daytona USA is not like the Saturn version. It's totally different. There are more tracks on this version than there is on the Sega than the Saturn version, the Sega Saturn version. Plus, it's a little harder. I mean, look at all these titles. Look at all these titles. We got Dynamite Cop, Echo the Dolphin, Defender of the Future, Elemental Gimmick Gear, Evil Dead, Hail to the King, Evolution 1 and 2, F1 Racing Championship, Fatal Fury, Mark of the Wolves, Fighting Force 2, Fighting Vipers 2, Fire Pro Wrestling D, God All, Mark of the Wolves, Gauntlet Legends, Giant Killers, Gigawing 1, Gigawing 2, Godzilla Generations, Grandia 2, The Grinch, Guilty Gear X, Gunbird, Gundam Side Story, 0079, House of Dead 1, 2, 100 Swords, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Oh, the list they keep on coming, and I've only had a few of these games. And not to mention that the fact remains that it also is an emulator. And let me show you the emulators that I basically tried out, and this was long before I became a Let's Player. Actually, this is what this by itself made me a Let's Player. The Dream SNES. It's a SNES emulator with 700 games for the Dreamcast. So that means if you really want to download this, you are free to download this, because you can actually play Super Nintendo games on it. You can play NES games on it. You can also play Game Boy and Mega Drive games on it, / Genesis games. But for what it's worth, for everything that you have seen here, it is definitely worth getting for yourself if you so choose to get some. And like I said, what you want to do is you want to try out certain games that will work for you. Just like I plan to get a few more games after I'm done with the rest of my Let's Plays. I'll get some in between all my games that I'm doing. And of course, there'll be, future episodes of Chess of Obscurity, or perhaps Let's Plays. Full-on Let's Plays. There is one game I would like to do, and that's this one right here, Record of Lotus War. And I've seen how it looks. It looks just like this. It's not like the game I showed off on my channel, the Super Nintendo version. It's not like that. This actually plays more like Diablo. So it's worth trying out for yourself. And I might just do that. I tried Samba de Amigo on here. It's really hard to do without maracas. Shenmue, I see myself doing in the not so far future, as well as Skies of Arcadia and Soul Calibur, the first one. And then there's, of course, Space Channel 5, the first game. Upon many other games that you see here. Some I remember I bought when I had my Sega Dreamcast. And some I remember. Some I just tend to remember very well because, as I mentioned before, where I am, they don't really sell that many in as far as Dreamcast games go. So there's that. So yeah, in this case, they have quite the setup of games, even though it's not a really big list of games. But it's a nice, hefty list of games that are worth trying out for your own amusement and perusal. But I just wanted to show you how to work the Sega Dreamcast emulator that I got for myself for all intents and purposes. So with that, I have been the Tenkaichi of gaming, and that was a look at the NullDC Sega Dreamcast emulator. Try it out for yourself sometime, why don't you? I'll see you next time with more great content, and I'll see you next time. Until then, Senpai's blessings upon you, my good people. And Tenkai Muso. I'll see you around.